NLC together with the TUC have decided to go for an indefinite strike coming October 3rd, which is Tuesday next week, because the government is actually claiming or proving stubborn to actually listen to some of the plight of the people, providing of palliative among many other things that they have tabled before the government. The program is the Dailies, Equal Television International. We keep you updated with all that is happening on the papers, and we hope that you drop your comment on our Facebook and YouTube as we are live there, so you can be part of the conversation going on here in the studio. I am Sada Elisha Dasham, and I will be doing this alongside Rachel Tanzi. Good morning.
Good morning, Sada.
How you doing?
I'm fine. How about you?
I'm great. Thank you so much, Rachel. All right, we will be starting with the first paper, which is Nigerian News Direct.
On Nigerian News Direct, Senate confirms Cardoso as CBN governor. You can find more details on page 3. Airtel UNICEF on Reimaging Education Program. You can find more details on the paper. Why Tinubu's administration may fail. Statement coming from the Works Minister. Lament no existing federal loan roads can last 7 years, and then urges president to review procurement system. Then it means that as you are trying to reconstruct new roads, we should plan on more quality roads that will last more than 7 years. You can find more details on page 22. NDIC backs 3 ISO certifications for outstanding performance. Stock market suffers 0.34% drop, losing 126 billion naira amid selling pressure. We are committed to the fight against illicit drugs, a statement coming from the President Tinubu. Abiodun flags off construction of aviation village. This is happening in Ogun State. A delegate pled Osun finances into bankruptcy in 10 months. This is coming from Osun APC. You can find more details on page 2, and that's all the news on Nigerian News Direct.
On the Daily Independent, starting with the big story on the paper, we have a fuel subsidy removal. Federal government acts to avert strike, shows sensitivity to labor demands. The writer following that, NLC TUC commenced total strike October 3rd. Says talks with federal government failed to yield tangible results. Afenifere urges the federal government to ameliorate citizens' sufferings. Nationwide strike will worsen challenges, coming from the Speaker Abbas. You can find more of the story inside the paper. Apprehension as 17,000 federal civil servants are delisted from payroll. INEC fixes September 21st and November 16, 2024 dates for Edo and Ondo Guba polls. Other stories still on Daily Independent, we have Tinubu OK's payment for 12 attack helicopters from Army Aviation. Court stops impeachment of Ondo Deputy Governor, and the writer following that story says State Assembly explain position, promises due process. Apabio urges colleagues to protect Nigeria's democracy. You can find that story on page 6. Senate confirms Cardoso as the CBN governor, 4 as deputies. And also we have Pray for Nigeria as we work to make economy valuable. This is coming from Tinubu. Vows to crush illicit drug syndicates, and then urges anti-narcotic agency to consolidate partnership. You can find that story on page 29. And also we are having coming from the OPC, they say Mobat should have approached us. You can find more detail of that story on page 8. We have a picture story where you can see the vice president. You can do it to find more detail of that story. Now moving on to the Nigeria Standard newspaper. Still we have another story here saying Taraba government orders the payment of ASU salary arrears. This is commendable, coming from the Taraba state government. Plateau State government to collaborate with France to generate employment. More of that story can be found on page 12. NIN adoption will mitigate aid checking. You can find more of that also on page 31. And on the 2024 budget, local government pledges to execute 156 grassroots projects. More can be found on page 10. The big story on Nigerian Standard, we have Governor Mutfwan procures truck of fertilizer as palliative. And that is actually to be distributed to the farmers in the state as palliative. Out of the said number of trucks, he revealed that about 187 trucks of the assorted fertilizer may have received and offloaded in the warehouse in just for distribution to farmers in the state. This is really commendable, also coming from the governor of Plateau State. Other stories still on the Nigerian Standard, we have uncertainty loom as the crude oil hit $93.50. You can find more of that story inside the paper. Federal government not negotiating with Zamfara terrorists. We will remember yesterday it was on the paper when the governor of the state was accusing the government of negotiating. And here we are seeing them coming out to categorically state that they are not negotiating anything with bandits. You can find that story on the front page and continue on page 1. And I think that is all on the Nigerian Standard newspaper.
On the Daily Times newspaper, federal government eyes 2.88 billion naira yearly from MMA access toll gate. The big story on the paper, total shutdown of economy imminent as Labour declares indefinite strike. The writer under the story, October 3rd is kickoff date. Airports, seaports, banks, government offices, others will be closed. Mobilization ongoing in states and the Federal Capital Territory. Federal government insensitive to our suffering, I believe a statement coming from Labour. You can find more details on the front page and continue inside the paper. DSS invites Ogun local government boss over cold killing as court remands another. Federal government okays payment for 12 attack helicopter for army. You can find more details on page 5. And on the Eid al-Maulud celebration, Tinubu orders tax Muslims. You can find more details on page 11. Ondo Deputy Governor wins round 1 concerning his impeachment. And at the downside of the paper, Osun APC Governor trade tackles over 2 billion naira for palliatives. You can find more details on page 2, and that's all the news on the Daily Times newspaper.
Alright, let's take a look at the New Telegraph newspaper, starting with a big story on the New Telegraph newspaper. And on strike, we have the NLC TUC mobilized to ground activity nationwide from October 3rd. The writer following that plan rallies, protests till the federal government responds favorably, and federal government yet to fulfill promises to teachers 3 years after. This is coming from the Union of Teachers. Abbas OPSN pleads, says industrial action will cripple the economy and cause disruption. You can find more on page 2, 3, and 7. Money supply behind rising inflation, say Kadosu, as Senate confirms CBN nominees. Apex Bank targets $1 trillion GDP in 8 years to address the forex unification and others. Naira falls to record Naira falls to record 1,000 naira to $1 at the parallel market. You can find more of that on page 25. Afenifere filed the Presidential Election Tribunal judgment, support Obi's appeal at the Supreme Court. Also, we are having aviation distribution to economy insignificant. And also the rep is observing 1 minute silent, or the reps have observed 1 minute silent for Mubad. You can find more of that story inside the paper. Other story on New Telegraph, we have INEC fixed dates for Edo and Ondo Guba polls. NGE commences the Southeast governors on effort to address insecurity. Applaud Governor Dire's proactive measures. More of that story can be found on page 7. NBA demands immediate appointment of Supreme Court Justice. Court can't stop the deputy governor's impeachment, coming from Ondo State. You can find more of that story on page 4 and 29. Zamfara governor's allegation, we are not negotiating with bandits, still coming from the federal government, says security agency working to free adopted varsity student. Insecurity, army set to acquire 12 attack helicopters, and we hope that the army will be very careful this time around. We don't want to have a repeat, Richard, of what happened in Niger State. I remember where we lost some of our very active and honorable men, I say army, as a result of siege that was being planted for them. So in as much as the army are planning like about 12 attack helicopters, we hope that they check to be sure that the helicopters are in good state. They should make sure that we do not have them being attacked, or they should not plan any siege for them whatsoever that will end up costing their life. And just like we've been saying, I think rather than us having back and forth coming from the federal government and also from the state government, I think we should be seeing a synergy coming from these two state and also the federal government to see how we can also rescue not just the student or the construction workers that are being abducted, but we have NYSC core members that have also been. We have other people. I mean, I think last week we saw that Benue Links was also attacked. Some people were also kidnapped alongside. So I think it's important we see synergy coming from various state governors on how they can work with the federal government so we can have these people back with their loved ones rather than having allegations and then respond and all of that. This will cause a crack, as I always say, and then we'll say that we don't record the success that we want to record eventually.
For the Air Force, we've seen a lot of airstrikes that have killed terrorists and their places of hiding and all of that. So yes, this is more to what the Air Force already have, because even during Buhari's administration, we saw a lot of procurement of these fighter jets and all of that. So it is good that we are seeing that the federal government is seeing the need to add more for the Air Force to be able to be efficient when it comes to airstrike. But then I am also looking forward to where our army, our land soldiers will be having more ammunition also, because we are seeing that these terrorists, these bandits are also well armed. And then we are looking forward to seeing our soldiers having more sophisticated weapons, and even the grade of our armor to be upgraded, because we are, compared to world standard as it is now, we are still backward when it comes to the armor that the military use, when we're talking about their gear, what they use to protect their helmet, their bulletproofs and all of that. Yes, we need to also see an upgrade with that. So yes, as the government is trying to cover every ground, be it Navy, Air Force, military, we just want to see more effort from them, that of course we won't have our soldiers being trapped. And the reason being that bandits or terrorists have more firepower than them, but that they are also well equipped to fight this insecurity in the country. And of course, concerning abduction, I keep saying it, prevention is always the best way forward. What is NYSC doing concerning making sure that core members get to their primary place of assignment safely, and what are universities doing in their own little way to make sure that students are not being kidnapped, be it on their way to school or within school areas, be it on campus or off campus. Either way, you are responsible for this student. So I think it's a general thing where we see that the Nigerian security agencies are like falling short. Then you, as an institution with that responsibility, also should wake up. And I believe if everybody should not sleep on their duty, we'll be able to see some significant amount of protection, yes, and progress, exactly, when it comes to saving the life of people in this country.
Honestly, you just said it all, and we hope that the government will take all of these observations or recommendations into cognizance. We have a study at the downside of the paper coming from expert, where we have depression contributes to type 2 diabetes risk. So for those who are at risk of getting diabetes, please do avoid depression, stress, or anything that would trigger it. So you can find more of that study on page 28. Tinubu urges Muslims to imbibe Muhammad's virtue. Atiku, Akpabio, Kalu, governors facilitate Muslims and preach peace and harmony. You can find more of that on page 27. We have a picture story where we can see the governor of Lagos State. You can do well to grab the paper and read more detail of any of the story that is of interest to you.
On First News, court remands ex-local government chairman who accused Ogun governor of fund diversion. CBN can't be hijacked under my watch, said Cardoso. How Emefiele attempted to sabotage 2023 polls. This is a statement coming from Akpabio. INEC fixes dates for Edo-Ondo Guba elections. Another Tinubu's Chicago varsity classmate testifies in U.S. court. The big story on the paper: Senate confirms Cardoso deputies as 259 CSOs kick in petition. Tinubu say president's action violates CBN Act. Coalition questions Cardoso deputies' academic qualifications, experience, competence, integrity. Alleged one deputy governor under AFCC probe for fraud. And still on Mohbad's case, coroner's inquest into cause of death begins Friday. And we'll wait to see the results. Still on the First News newspaper, October 3rd, planned strike, stock up your homes. NLC TUC warn Nigerians. Labour threatens to ground activities nationwide. And on impeachment, Aiyedatiwa's Kingsmen protest says deputy governor can't be removed. Ogun cancels Independence Day celebration. And on Gombe election petition tribunal, Governor Yahaya floors ADC. Sagumo called killing DSS grills more suspects. And that's all the news on First News newspaper.
And I think it's important that let's just talk passively or a little bit about the issue of the NLC and TUC, because we've been keeping our viewers updated with the back and forth they have been having with the government, to the point that there was even a division where we had the TUC were on their own and NLC were on their own, and they were negotiating at a point differently. But we've seen that they have come together to agree that they have a common goal and they need to fight it together. And we've seen that they are back, and finally they are stating the fact that they will be setting on this indefinite strike come October 3rd, which is next week Tuesday. And I think it's imperative for the government to actually look closely on this. If the government feel that this strike is going to cause more pain, this strike is going to crumble or actually cripple the economy, then I think it is only important that they rise up to their responsibility. You made a promise. It's 4 months now and nothing is here. We're seeing state government coming up in their own little way to see what they have to do to make sure that workers are at work. Now we're seeing that the NLC, the TUC are calling on the banks to join them, seaport to join them, airports to join them, and even other places. And right now we're seeing on the paper they're saying that homes should stock up because they will be going. So that is to tell you that if you are being asked to stock up, eventually you can't get any other thing. In as much as I know, yes, we'll find our markets open and all of that, but then to a large extent, what happens when you cannot transport yourself to a point? Are you going to be walking how many kilometers to get to your destination? So I think it's important that the government actually, this is no longer a child's play. We've passed the time where we are playing. This is serious business, and I think the government should do this. Yes, remember when they had that first warning strike, I think September 5th, 6th, which was for 2 days. It was a warning strike just to let the government know that we mean business. Even though they're not able to record 100% compliances, but to some large extent, they had about 80% compliances. So to some extent, they feel that they have succeeded. But I think it's important that the government should do something. If you feel that this will cause something to the economy, then I think you should do the right thing by actually addressing all of these issues that the NLC and the TUC have tabled before you. And I think this is the only way we'll have activities going on without anybody shutting down their business just to observe the strike.
You know, from today to the 3rd of October, it's enough period of time for the government to take action if they truly don't want the economy of this country to crumble due to the strike. And you know, it's going to be double effect because it's not just NLC, and that's why it's important for people to stock up, because the TUC is also joining them. So we are having people who are we are having manufacturers, we are having traders who are the people in charge of distribution, supply, and all of that also going to be a part of it, because everybody is feeling the hardship. Like nobody is finding it easy. Traders are not, manufacturers are not, small business owners are not, even the large scale business owners are not finding it easy. Nobody is finding it easy. So when everybody decides to say, you know what, you have to do the needful, that is to the federal government saying we have to do the needful, then it is going to be a nationwide shutdown, and then it's going to be hard for a lot of people, especially if you are in a private organization that you are not going to be on strike. You have to keep going on. It's not going to be easy for a lot of individuals that are not going to be a part of the strike. But I believe from now till the 3rd is enough time for the government of Nigeria to act quickly, because it is important for you to do that. We're talking about a whole federation here, so you can't sit down and say you can't do anything about it. You have all the resources, you have all the workforce to do something before the 3rd, so that eventually we don't go on strike. So I think I like how NLC plays the dates. That is, you have today, you have Thursday, you have Friday, you have Saturday, you have Sunday, you have Monday till Tuesday to do something. So we wait and see if the federal government of Nigeria truly don't want an economy clamp down and then do something so that labor don't eventually go on this strike.
So our fingers are crossed on that, Rachel. We hope that they do the right thing. Let's take a look at the Nation newspaper. And on the Nation newspaper, starting with the big story, we see How I Will Tackle Inflation, Naira Forex Crisis by Cardoso, having the writer CBN Governor Transparency Compliances to Rules Will Be Upheld. And then we are having the names of the various CBN governors that have been, on seat till the present one we are having, who is starting this year. So we wish him all the best as he gets on with the business. Obaseki asks Shaibu to drop the governorship ambition. You can find more of that story on page 2. Tinubu OK's purchase of 12 attack helicopters. Army aviation get the boost they want. So you can find that on page 6. Also, we see how Apabio is driving the FDI through the OGFTZ. You can find that story on page 27. Respond to allegation, Ondo Assembly tells the deputy. Lawmakers reject the court ruling. Pro-anti-deputy governor group stage a protest in Akure. You can find more of that on page 4. And OPS speaker and others oppose labor strike call. NLC TUC fixed October 3rd for indefinite strike. Downside of the paper, INEC fixed dates for Edo-Ondo governorship elections. You can find out on page 27. We have a picture story here on Airtel. You can do well to grab the paper and read more detail of any of the story that is of interest to you.
On the Punch newspaper, OPS kick as Labour vows to shut down airports, others on Tuesday. Federal government Labour leaders meeting holds Tuesday. Tinubu to unveil workers' package October 1st. Man other one of massive economic losses. Government foot dragging on workers' demands. A statement coming from NLC. You can find more details on page 2. Cardoso to clear dollar debt and suspend intervention loans. Fuel, car, others imports go up $46 billion annually, a statement coming from the federal government. And at the downside of the paper, El Maulud pray for Nigeria. Tinubu tells Muslims. Landlord baits 11-year-old with hot water. This is a very sad one, and it's just amazing how people do these things still. You can find more details on page 5. INEC unveils Ondo Edo polls timetable. More details can be found on page 7, and that's all the news on the Punch newspaper.
All right, let us take a look at the next paper, which is the Daily Sun newspaper. IPOB blasts Education Ministry for approving book dedicating Igbo for use in schools, demand its withdrawal. You can find more of what the IPOB is saying about what the approval of some books that denigrate the Igbo from use in schools. You can find that story on page 28. The big story for the Daily Sun: tough times ahead as NLC TUC begins indefinite strike next week. Vow to ground nation. Shelf plan reps its pleading. You can find that on page 6. Tinubu urges NDLEA to crush illicit drug syndicate, calls for consolidation of content anti-narcotic agency partnerships. You can find that on page 5. NGE praises the Southeast governors on effort to tackle security challenges. Thumbs up for Governor Dire. You can find on page 30. Federal government approves payment of 12 attack helicopters for Army aviation. Also, we see no condition given by Obaseki to accept Shaibu's apology coming from the Edo government. INEC fixed September-November 2024 for Edo and Ondo Guba polls. Defense chiefs solidate Nigerians supporting fight against insurgent and criminality. You can find more of that also inside the paper. Senate confirmed the CBN governor and deputies, more on page 25. And we have a picture story, the chief of defense staff with other generals were taking a picture at the Sun Senate correspondent. So you can find any of the story that is of interest to you, read detail and contribute to the story.
On Blueprint newspaper, UBA emerges Nigeria's most profitable bank in the first half of 2023. Depleting ranks of Supreme Court justices worries NBA. Nasarawa youth to PDP, prayers won't save you from losing at tribunal. Amid concern over weak Naira, Cardoso gets Senate nod at CBN boss. The big story on Blueprint, fuel subsidy removal. Divided labor unites as TUC NLC begin indefinite strike October 3rd. Say federal government grandstanding, forestalling avenues to peaceful dialogue. We're meeting your demands. Masses stand to suffer. Federal government reps beg. Civil servants call for calm over the listing of 17,000 workers. You can find more details on page 17 and also page 6. Global community must prioritize prevention of drug trafficking and abuse. A statement coming from President Tinubu urges war against illicit drug syndicates. And we have admonishes Muslim Ummah to emulate Prophet Muhammad at Eid Maulud. You can find more details on page 18. Nigeria is still Africa's biggest economy with $278.9 billion GDP. A report, you can find details on page 22. Saudi puts volume of trade with Nigeria at $600 million. Use of concrete roads won't cause cement price rise, a statement coming from Mahi assuring Nigerians. You can find more details on page 21, and that's all the news on Blueprint newspaper.
Well, I'm happy, most of the papers is actually capturing what the president is doing about illicit drugs. And I remember this is a fight, yes, he started ever since he got into office, fighting of illicit drugs, seeing what they can do to make sure we don't have it, the importance of you to stay clear of drugs. And then you will recall that each time, it's been a while, I've not seen syndicate being, we're having NDLE busting into it again. But then I think it's important that we have it, even though the fact that it's not on the paper doesn't mean that it's not happening completely. We are having it on the ground. But I believe that this is not just a fight that the federal government can do alone. This is a fight where we need state government, we need the local government, we need NGOs, we need various people that can put their hands together to say, let's fight this, because it will shock you the number of people and illicit drugs that get into this country. And then the people that are actually behind this, the people who are sponsoring it, the people who are paying more for it, will shock you that they are big and mighty people. So I think that for us to have the president talking about it, he has realized the importance of fighting of these. If we want to have this youth of tomorrow, then I think we need to fight this particular enemy that is actually taking more and more lives of our youth. So I'm happy coming from the president, and I hope he gets all the support he needs from various agencies, NGOs, and also the government in every level, so he will be able to record success to a large extent in this place.
And I also like the fact that he is calling on global community, because a lot of time majority of these drugs are being brought into the country. So it's not just about the ones in the country, but the ones that are coming into the country. So it's also the responsibility of this country to make sure that their drugs are not leaving their country, going into another country. And it's their also responsibility to make sure that nothing is leaving Nigeria and getting to their own shore. So it is a collaborative effort by world leaders, not only in Nigeria, but neighboring countries, and most especially countries that we know are known globally when it comes to drugs and things that are associated to it. So we are looking forward to seeing them coming together and really doing something drastically about it. But yes, we have seen NDLEA having a number of success. Even in this week, we've seen laughing gas being found, yes, by custom and all of that. So I believe that these are all agencies that have been working together. They need to increase the effort. However, we've been seeing results and we are hoping for more results. There's nothing that is impossible. So we can wake up one day to a Nigeria that we don't have drugs flying on the street as if it is nothing.
I think even going down to our cough syrups, it's something they need to do to control that intake too. Well, I think before we move on with other paper review, we'd love to take a time out so we can let you through the stories, and when we come back, read your comment and also open the phone lines. Please stay tuned with us.
Make your everyday informative, make your everyday count. Know your world, daily affairs, national and international, with authentic news events as they unfold on Global News and Zoom on Nigeria, Monday to Friday at 1 p.m.
Thanks for staying tuned. It's still the dailies. We've been looking at various stories on the paper, ranging from the screening that the Senate did for the present CBN governor, with other numbers of deputies that will be assisting him. And also the NLC and TUC have set October 3rd as the day they will be going for indefinite strike, while we are having the president promising to unveil the package he has for Nigerians on 1st of October. So we will love to hear what your own take is concerning all of the stories that are being revealed to us on the paper. Do remember to turn down the volume of your TV set when you call us, because we'd love to hear what your own inputs are, and other viewers at home will love to also hear what you have to say about that. I still have Rachel with me in the studio. Thank you so much.
You're
Rachel.
welcome, Sarah.
All right, let's move to the next paper.
On Leadership newspaper, Labour begins indefinite strike on Tuesday. Tribunal affirms Yahaya as Gombe governor. You can find more details on page 6. And we have a trend, NLC, TUC to begin strike. And on numbers, value of FGN bonds on XGX declines to 148.2 billion naira. Both details of the stories can be found on page 2. I will abandon Amefile's policies, says CBN Governor Cardoso, and you can start with the details on the front page and page 7. But I believe not all of Amefile's policies are not that good, so you don't have to abandon them. I believe what we need is a review, see what policies. Yes, exactly, what we can still use as a country and what we don't need. Still on Leadership newspaper, El Malou's VP, governors, minister, others preach peace. The big story on the paper, rumor of fuel price hike unsettles motorists and commuters. Scarcity hits Lagos, Ogun as long queues resurface. Fuel stations shut down operations. We are committed to energy security. A statement coming from NNPCL. More details can be found on page 4. Federal government denies negotiating with bandits. This is in Zamfara, the allegation coming from the governor to the federal government. As Ogun local government was remanded over publication against Abiodun. Tinubu makes surprise stopover in Paris. You can find more details on page 7. And That's all the news on Leadership newspaper.
And on the Vanguard newspaper, starting with the big story, we have the NLC TUC start nationwide indefinite strike October 3rd, say no meaningful dialogue with the government, urge Nigerians to stockpile food items and other necessity. Direct State Council affiliated to step up mobilization. All right, let's take this call. Hello, good morning. Oh, we lost that call. We do hope that you call us before the end of the show. Still on the Vanguard newspaper, we have reduced fiscal deficit by 3% of the GDP. This is coming from the IMF, charges Nigeria and others, with more detail found on page 19. National security remain precarious amid numerous successes, coming from Speaker Abbas. NGE commend Southeast governors on security initiative. Senate clears Cardoso, 4 others as CBN governor and deputy governors. Other story on the paper, gunmen shoot 3 Nasarawa police student, abduct 1. Now we see Richard is beginning to spread. It was in Zamfara, now it's in Nasarawa, and we remember there was a time when we had that attack in Plateau State. You remember the governor of Nasarawa State saying that these bandits are coming into the country. So that is to say that we have intelligence that tells us when these people get to move around. And I think it's important that we begin to check in. Once there is an attack here, let us check the neighboring states that are around, the other routes that make it easier for all of this place. So I really feel sad for this student. And we're still having this student being at the center of this attack. Each time there's an insurgent, the students are the vulnerable ones that are being attacked. And this call for a serious emergency meeting in the various states. I mean, if the state governors need to call themselves together. All right, let's take this call. Hello, good morning.
Okay. Our president said he has something to tell us on the 1st of October. Am I right?
Of course he does.
Yes, sir.
Hello?
Yes, we are with you, sir. Go ahead, please.
The truth remains that this APC government has nothing to offer Nigeria. That's the simple truth. They have nothing to offer Nigeria.
Why did you say so?
Hello?
Yes, sir. Why did you say so?
When Buhari was our president, for 8 years, up to now, Nigeria is still suffering. So they should leave us. They should leave us alone. Let's just believe. Let's just hope on God. One day, God will remember us. Okay?
All right, sir.
All right.
Thank you for your contribution on that. But I feel, Richard, if you ask for my personal opinion, it is your right to demand from your government. You elected them into office. So it's not about the first 8 years of the APC administration, whether they do well or they didn't do well. Of course, I know that it's normal for Nigerians to judge it from the past administration. But I think it's imperative that the fact that the government is not doing it does not mean that they will not be held accountable for doing certain things. Of course, Nigerians will feel that because the president said he will unveil the package. What is stopping from unveiling the package now? Why do we have to wait for that package 1st October? So of course Nigerians have the right to express their grievance and mistrust for the government. But I still feel that it is not out of place to still demand them to do the right thing. They will not we are not leaving the government alone. We are the watchdogs and we keep them on their toe until they do the right thing.
Yes, we can hear you.
Please go ahead, sir.
So you see, promising. Believe in what you have said, that is having a package for Nigeria on the 1st of October.
Yes, sir.
So people shouldn't just take it serious. You see, it's the same old story. Hello?
We are with you, sir. Go ahead, please.
Hello?
We are with you. Go ahead.
So, for me, I don't have any belief in what the federal government is promising Nigeria.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Right, we are having another viewer, Rachel, sharing in the same.
Exactly. Like, Sele, I know that this administration have put a lot of policies that is causing hardship. However, whether we like it or not, it's still very early for us to conclude that they have nothing to offer us. Yes, it might be under the APC party, but we are still having an administration of different individuals. Buhari's administration has gone, and then we are having a new individual with a different perspective and different view concerning the economy of the country and where he plans on taking Nigeria in the next 4 years if given the opportunity.
Right, let's take this call. Hello, good morning.
I want to say something about the fertilizer issue. The governor of Plateau State made available instead of Indomie palliative and all the rest of it. It's really commendable. I have to say something about that. Because the man, he knows the real need of his people. That is why. Than giving them Indomie and all the rest of nonsense things for them to eat now. Tomorrow they will be hungry. I feel as if other governors will emulate or go to that line, it will be better. Because the food, the fertilizer will help to produce tomorrow. I will not be talking of a shortage of food or something like that than eating Indomie today, all this rubber, and all the nonsense there, and tomorrow we'll be hungry. So having said that, I have to say something about IPOB and the book. The book they are talking about, you can't tell me that an Yoruba man will go and write the history of Igbos. It's peculiar, it's something peculiar. Whatever, we need history books that have something or local to that people. Not somebody from another place and come and write a book and tell them to be reading. It's not the way to go. Let us be realistic. In this country, everybody has a stake. And you don't have to tell me that a Yoruba man will know Igbo better or Igbo better than Igbos know themselves. So if IPOB said that they don't need that and they should streamline the type of books they read in their enclave, it's their own business. It's not somebody's to bother them about. Another thing I want to say again is NLC problem. NLC is organized organization, which we know that existed from time immemorial. I don't know whether I'm correct to use that word, but still, it is necessary they do something about what is happening in this country. Checkmate the government, tell them what to do. And moreover, the issue of NLC, particularly about the salary and what happened of it, should not be the case. They should broaden their vision to the rural areas and see what is happening there. Not talking of adjustment of salary, increase of salary, making the office comfortable and this thing. But they go home. They see their brothers and sisters lavishing, dying of hunger and all the rest of it. The transportation is not there. All other issues are still lingering. What are we doing about it? What are they doing? They should do something to that case about helping the poor people at the rural areas, making the transport available, making other things that will make life more meaningful. To tell government to do something about it. And finally, the drug matter. The drug that is consumed in this country, if you estimate it, is so alarming. That even a little boy or a little girl in the primary school, even kindergarten itself, if you check very well, they are indulging drug peddling and drug taking. So the issue of drug should be tackled headlong. Let government look at the drug matter. Because how did the drug get to these areas? How did they get it? You will see people carrying weed in polythene bag, selling it along the street. What do they do about it? All this marijuana, they smoke it at random.
Sure.
All this tramadol, they drink it like water. What are we doing about it? And people will come out and begin to sing a drug. While they see it every day, how it's being consumed uncontrolled. So I think the drug issue is very endemic in Nigeria system today. Unless government intervene.
Thank you so much, sir.
That is my take. Thank you so much, and God bless you.
Thank you so much, sir. for touching at least every point and
Every
almost
point that
every
I've been on
summarizing the
Yeah,
entire
yes,
papers. I think you were making a point.
Yes, Sele, concerning what the previous caller said, it's still very early for us to conclude that this administration have nothing to offer to us, regardless of what we are facing in the country. It's still too early, and then we will just wait and see what the president truly have for us. Of course, when it comes to having a package, we don't want peanuts as a country. Make policies, make decisions, implement things that every Nigerian will benefit from. That is what we want. I believe that this is one of the things this last caller gave kudos to Plateau State Governor for giving fertilizers as palliative. Give something that will last longer, give something that the result will be better. And we've had many people advocating that we don't need all these palliative. Fix refineries, because when we have fuel being refined in this country, we won't have to bother about importation. We won't have to bother whether Naira is having a free fall. We will be able to sell petroleum at our own price, and before we know it, manufacturers, industries won't have the problem we are facing. Do what the entire Nigeria will benefit from, not just packages that will last a day, not Indomie, as he said, that people will just eat today and the next minute you are hungry. So that is what we are looking forward from this administration. Take decisions, no matter how tough they are, that the whole of the country will benefit from, and not just packages that will last for just a moment.
You know, there was a point he said, and I actually wanted talking about it. I think it was another side on me, the issue of the iPod blasting the Minister of Education.
Concerning the books.
And I think it's imperative, because I remember during the election when the Southeast were not coming from the APC, and also the PDP, when they were not being captured because it was supposed to be zoned. And I remember categorically the Igbo stated the fact that they thought the civil war was over. But from what these various parties are doing, it seems that they are trying to marginalize that part of the country, and they're making them to feel that they are not important because it's supposed to have been shifted to the south, but then it wasn't shifted to that place. Now, what am I trying to say? It is very, very I mean, it is inhuman, and it's unnecessary for you to stop them from using. Just like our caller says, it's important we have our history back. I remember there was a time where we saw in the paper Rachel together that history was being brought back, and we were all happy because over there a lot of us have no history about our background. We have no history about our roots. We do not know anything that had happened. And I remember back then there was something that was a caption, or there was a word Obafemi Awolowo said in his book then. I think he said that Nigeria is just it's just a geographical expression. We're not united, and things like this actually can instigate violence, can actually bring about people feeling that they are not part of Nigeria. Nigeria belongs to everybody. Nobody is more Nigerian than another. So I think that the Minister of Education needs to go back and cross-check the reason why he is telling them to actually do that, even though I think they are telling him to withdraw it, but we do not know if he eventually will withdraw it. But I think it's important that let us have the state governor of this state coming out to state the fact that we want our culture, we want our tribe to be part of the curriculum for that school, so that the people, because most of the words in that place are actually citizens of that, or indigenes of those various states. So I think it is important. So, but we will just hope, keep our fingers crossed, and see what the Minister of Education will do, and then the outcome of such things.
Of course, any book seller that will not show or tell the true story of people is not history, because we don't want one-sided. That is dangerous. One-sided story is very dangerous, where you do not know two sides of what have happened in the past. It is just half information, and the truth is that no information is better than half information, because that is more dangerous when it comes to just having one-sided knowledge. So I just hope that this book, if of course is belittling or undermining or not portraying Igbo culture, Igbo people history as it should be, then of course it should be taken away, and of course the story and the history of Igbo people should be written by Igbo people and so that there won't be any problems, there won't be any misunderstanding at the long run. So it's just all about rewriting the book, reviewing it again, and making sure it captures details that are factual, not just fiction made to look like it is what actually happened. So that's just what I'm hoping will come about this book eventually.
Of course, Rachel.
Yes.
Well, let me quickly round up the Vanguard newspaper, where we also have Live Well, Be Happy Dead calls on us daily, reflection on human flourishing in Nigeria. I think this is important that you read that. That is the first one, and you can find that on page 15. We didn't mandate anyone to negotiate with bandits. This is coming from the defense ministers. More of that can be found on page 9. We are committed to fighting illicit drugs, coming from the President Tinubu. And on insecurity, federal government boosts army operations with attack helicopters. We have a column for Afe Babalola. You can find more on restructure or refigure. And also we have on AFCON 2025-2027, host nation Nigeria, Benin bid in the forefront. So it's for those who are sport lovers. You can do well to grab the paper and read more of that on page 29. And that is all on the Vanguard, and also how far we can go on the program this morning. Thank you so much, Rachel, for doing this to me. And thank you to every of our callers who called in to contribute. We're truly grateful for your insightful contribution to the program. Thank you to our supporters and the crew members. Until we come here again tomorrow, do enjoy your holiday and please live a peaceful life.